Well, Dharmadas and I just returned from Russia, as you may have guessed from that chant. And we very much appreciate all the prayers that you sent for our well-being and safety. We had a wonderful trip. It was happily non-eventful. We were able to get into the country and get out of the country just fine. And we did many programs and taught Kriya Yoga and meditation to a lot of people, probably, I guess, around 100 people altogether, 3 different retreats. It was a very blessed time. And after the service, we'll show some slides and tell some stories, and we have chocolate, so you might want to stay and hear all about everything that happened. Well, this week's topic is a very important one. How do devotees rise? And the story of Mary is a very important one. Ever think about how Mary was meditating at the feet of Christ? You can just visualize her still, blissful, happy, and her sister comes in and starts yelling and, why isn't she in the kitchen with me helping? And Christ says, no, she's doing the right thing. This will not be taken from her. She's chosen that good part. And then here's Mary, however long afterwards, and she's lovingly offering this ointment onto Christ's feet. She's in a heavenly state. You can just imagine how much love and devotion she's showering on Jesus, wiping the ointment from his feet with her hair. It's so devotional. And there's Judas going, now, why didn't she just sell this and we could give this money to the poor? She's being criticized by everyone, it seems. And that happens on the spiritual path. Our devotion is tested. It's not normal. It's not, quote, normal. It's not what people are used to seeing. It's not what everyone does. To be in perfect stillness at the feet of the Master, or to offer loving service. People are surprised by that. They're offended by it. They think it should be different. They don't want us to be in that state. Why? Because they know it's the only way to be happy. If we can open our hearts and give God our love, that is the magnet that draws us up. That's how we rise, through our love. I'm sure many of us in this room have read about near-death experiences and maybe seen some of Dr. Moody's movies or whatever. There's a lot of research that's been done and a lot of information out there about what happens when we pass from this world. And I'm sure many of you will remember that the question we're asked is, how much did you love? Not how much money did you make? How many degrees did you get? What was your empire? How many toys did you have? But how much did you love? If we can do that, and it's not just when we find our soulmate, or when we have the child, or when the romantic meeting of the guru, when the guru says, my own, you have come to me at long last, I've been waiting for you. That hardly ever happens. The guru puts you to work. He says, work on yourself and serve others. That's what he says. But we have to develop that love. And how do we develop the love? Well, for one thing, we fill our minds with the teachings. This choir singing The Secret of Laughter, that song has been sung by devotees for close to 50 years. I love singing that song because the words come back to me when I need them. And that's the point of singing Swami's songs. It's philosophy in song. It comes back to you when you need it. So, singing is a good way to open your heart to God. Study is a good way. Meditation is the best way. Meditation, so many people, and we've taught in all over America and Canada and Europe and India and now Russia a lot, and this was our 5th trip there. People all say the same thing. They say, yeah, I'm not very good at meditation. How can I develop devotion? I don't feel devotion. And it's very simple. Ask God for help. God is very polite. He doesn't come crashing in your door and say, you there, sit up, meditate. He doesn't give you a hard time. He doesn't say, I'm here, I've come. What about it? What are you going to do? God doesn't act like that. God waits. And when we ask, that's when he comes. So ask for help. Say, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. You have to be with me. And he will. Yogananda said, if we even say the name of Babaji, we attract an instant blessing. Try that. I've used that countless times in my life. And it works. If you ask sincerely and open your heart, God is right there. He's just waiting for you to want him. Yogananda said it takes very, very, very good karma to even want to know God. Most people don't want to. They just want to watch television, just want to go to the bar. They just don't want to even think about anything higher because it's challenging. But you can choose your life. You can choose to be happy or to be sucked into the endless suffering of this world. So choose to be like Mary. Choose to have that calm, centered stillness, offering your love to God. It's incredibly magnetic. And be like Mary, serving God in whatever we do. It doesn't have to be washing his feet with precious ointment. It can be helping the kids get off to school. It can be gardening. It can be whatever you do for a job. It's only an attitude shift. There's nothing else about it. It's only what you think it is. If you think I am cooking this meal for God and I'm serving these people through my work, then they're going to feel that love. Swami Kriyananda used to say he had a friend who would make bread when she was angry. And she would knead the bread and put all of her frustration and anger and pounding into this bread. And Swami said, who would want to eat that? And I remember a time when there was a woman devotee who lived kind of far away from Swami's house, but one day she brought some, I think it was a rice pudding, and she gave it to Swami's cook, and Swami's cook served it at lunchtime, but she forgot to tell him that it was made by this woman. He took one bite and he said, "Who made this?" Whoever made it was a saint. He could feel that vibration. So think about what vibration you're putting into whatever you do. Is it the mad bread or is it the saintly pudding? It all has a vibration. And I'm going to close a little early today because we want to have time for the satsang, but I'll just tell you one other very important trick if you want to rise spiritually. And this is a little story about Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison was, at the time, 67 years old. And he came home from his day working at the factory where he was doing his experiments and making these products. And he had his dinner, and right after dinner, a man burst through the door and said, "There's a fire at the factory." And Thomas Edison, very calmly but quickly, made his way the 8 miles or so to his factory. Fire trucks from 8 surrounding cities were there trying to put out the flames. They could not put out the flames. So Edison walked through the crowd of many hundreds of onlookers and very despairing workers. And he looked for his son first, and he said, he got his son, and he said, "Go get your mother and tell her to bring all her friends. They've never seen a fire like this." The flames, because of all the chemicals that he had in his factory, the chemicals were shooting flames 6 or 8 stories high. All colors, green and blue and red and yellow. And his son was very despairing. He knew how much was in this factory. And Edison calmed his son. He said, "It's okay, just getting rid of a lot of rubbish." They couldn't put out the fire. They were insured for about 1/3 of what it was worth because all the buildings were made of concrete. They thought they were fireproof. So that day, he and his investors lost about $1 million. So in those days, that was quite a bit of money. Edison told a reporter the next day after the fire, "I've been through a lot of stuff like this in my life. It just keeps a man from being bored." He took that obstacle and flipped it. He took that obstacle and made it not only positive, he made it joyful. Think about your own life and what you could do to have that kind of attitude. So, just to finish the story, Edison started in again the very next day. In 3 weeks, they were cobbled together and they were starting to make it work. In 4 weeks, they had 2 shifts of workers working around the clock, putting out products the world had never seen before. At the end of a year, remember they had lost $1 million. At the end of the first year, they had made $10 million. Use the obstacles in your life to spur you on. That's the kind of energy that we need to find God. That's the kind of magnetism that we need to create. And we can do it. And we can rise.
I'm holding my phone here, which I would not typically do, but I want to read you something that came to me recently. The other day, and I want to not paraphrase, I want to actually quote it verbatim because it's very sweet. Friends of ours that we have visited who have a Yogananda community on the Big Island in Hawaii, there was an earthquake that they were very nearby. The epicenter was just 10 or 15 miles away from them. And I connected the time zones and the timing of that to the end of their morning meditation. And so I fired over a text asking my friend Michael, who would have been leading the morning meditation, anything interesting happened today? And this is what he wrote back. We were right at the end of morning meditation. A front row seat to watch the reactive process. Only a meditator can say that. There's a 5.3 earthquake. I mean, you're going to notice that. That's a real, it's not, 7 or 9. It's not one of these things that just completely destroys an island, but anyway, it'll wake you up a little bit. If it had gone on any longer, we would definitely have emptied the building, but to everyone's credit, no one budged and we finished our session. That is an active expression of calmness. And granted, they were part way through the meditation, so they at least had that going for them. But I can tell you from having been at a few meditations where something happened, the smoke alarm went off or the whatever, and there were shrieks of people just sort of leaping out of their skin. Things like that happen. And what we benefit from, and this also segues onto the story that Nirmala just told about Thomas Edison, we get to see in living color, how do we respond? How do we react? What is our reactive process? This is what this art and science of Kriya Yoga is all about, energizing that process so that we get control of it, so that we take it within, so that we can actually use whatever comes to us in life as a blessing instead of sort of being squished by it. As Nirmala mentioned, we were recently in Russia, and we went to an incredible church. You'll see some pictures of it. And I could see this place was just incredibly beautiful. Well, later on, there was a tour, a sort of official church tour where they take you and sort of show you things and explain a little bit the story of it. And it was an interesting tour. It was an interesting sort of information that they gave. But what struck me was that this church, Russia has been through a lot of struggle. And this church was an example of it. The Nazis tried to destroy this church with bombs, literally blasting bombs from the inside of it to try to take it down. 3 times they tried to take it down and it wouldn't fall. And they finally got freaked out and left. And the church is now stunningly beautiful. And it's just one example of thousands of examples of how you can take something outwardly devastating and make beauty out of it. And that statement of Edison's, well, it's just getting rid of a lot of rubbish. All of us probably could say that. When we landed in San Francisco, we had a connecting flight in Munich that was very tight. It was only an hour layover, and the flight out of Moscow was late leaving. So we were already 20 or 25 minutes into that hour by the time we landed, and we had to get off the plane. We had to clear security, another passport check. I mean, we were running through the airport. We just, we kind of skidded onto the plane. The guy was looking at our boarding passes and saying, I don't even see seat assignments on here. I'm like, out of my way, I know where we're sitting. And, it was like, don't tell me we're not getting on the, well, okay, so we made the flight. Great, kind of huffing and puffing. And we get to San Francisco, and of course, well, the luggage didn't run quite as quickly through the airport as we did. So, a bunch of suitcases are not there. And it was like, oh, this is interesting. We're going to carry a little bit lighter load this evening away from the airport. But it was interesting to think, you sort of feel a little vulnerable in that moment. And at the same time, it was like, well, you know what? If it's all gone, it's all gone. If the guitar goes away, yeah, I would be sorry. This guitar's been to Siberia 4 times, I think. And, we've been through a lot together. But, if God wants it back, okay, that's just how it's going to be. But all of us in our lives can think, how calm do I stay through the ups and downs of life? And that includes all the things that we think of as really fun and really positive. Win the lottery. What happens? I've read stories, we all know the horror stories of what happened to people when they win the lottery, but there have been some really interesting ones. There was a man, not a formal monk, but nevertheless a man who had taken monastic vows or formal vows of renunciation, won the lottery, and he had already decided that if he did, he would donate the entire sum. And he jolly well did. He donated the entire sum. That is the kind of person who can take an experience like that and make something positive out of it instead of the usual disaster that happens to people. All of us in our lives can learn the skills partly from meditation, but partly from the application of meditation. Meditation is very valuable because it gives us that laboratory to learn about the inside of our lives, to learn about that reactive process. But then we have to test it. Then we have to share it in some kind of way. And I don't mean necessarily sharing meditation, because not everybody's all that interested, but sharing the blessings of meditation, sharing the benefits of meditation. Every person who feels more peaceful from meditation becomes a walking, breathing, living advertisement for the benefits of peace. And people around them will notice. People take notes. Kids take notes. You may not see them scribbling away, but basically from the time they're born, kids are busy watching. They may hear what you say, but they will watch what we do and how we live and how we respond to the challenges that face us in life. And peace is an enormously bold example for the world, and a very, very badly needed one as well. And I think we all know that. But let us take the opportunity to live our life in calmness, but also remembering that the activity that we do in daily life is a vital part of how we determine how real is my inner experience. Yogananda had an interesting experience. He was late for a lecture, and he was running. He was running through the lobby or the hallways or whatever to get to the place where he was supposed to be. And somebody saw him running and shouted out, evidently knowing that it was him and knowing that he promoted meditation and so forth, something about, "Now you're not anxious, are you?" And Yogananda, it's also kind of a goofy thing to say, but human nature, you can sort of see that. I'm going to put one over on you. And Yogananda said, "You can run calmly or you can run anxiously. But to not run when you're late is to be lazy." So took a little teachable moment there. Well, all of us in our lives have had one experience or another where we've been late or we've been in some situation where we're stuck. And that is a great measuring stick for how well am I doing? What can I improve? How can I do better? And it doesn't necessarily happen right in the moment. Right in the moment, we just have to take our best shot at whatever it is. When we were running through the airport in Munich, we got off the plane. There was an airline staff person who was there specifically to guide people to which gate they were supposed to go to. And so we asked about our flight. And there was this pause and this kind of confused silence. And it was like, you know, and then the person started looking through the list, you know, and it was going to be like pages deep. And it was like, you know what? We just ran. We didn't even wait. It's like, whatever it is, it's going to be that way. So we just took off and ran. I mean, and that could have been the wrong decision. I mean, in theory, we could have gone the wrong way, which we knew there basically wasn't any other way to go. But we wouldn't have known in the moment. It would only have been afterwards that we would know. But let us learn that process, because that is how we cultivate and develop calmness that can stand up to all the ups and downs of life. That is how we learn to live with calm activity and being actively calm, as Yogananda said.